welcome to the second episode of the Dawsons Auctioneers podcast. I thought I'd touch upon a hot topic of the moment, which is global warming, perhaps not so much global warming, but sustainability and the green credentials of the auction world. Lots of people now, and quite rightly too, band about sustainability, the depletion of resources, and so on and so forth. But you know, actually, we've been in the recycling business. The antiques business in general has been in the recycling business for such a long time. It's not new to us. It's actually standard procedure for us. You know, I was looking last night in preparation for this podcast at the environmental impact of the furniture industry and all its allied trades. You see, it's not just you cut down a tree to make a piece of furniture. You don't. I mean, it's on the scale that it's done upon. Trees are felled just to make into particulate board, to make MDF furniture with a very short shelf life. I mean, they're built, this would be denied, I know, but they're built with obsolescence in mind. The materials that they're made from are they're not sourced for their longevity or their durability. They're actually sourced because what will happen is 2 moves and they're useless. The joints have all become loose, the whole thing triangulates and is not fit for purpose, so you go and buy again. But the problem is that this furniture is made from chemically bonded wood chips, or it depends. I mean, it could be laminate board, but these things don't degrade in the soil. So when they go to landfill, because of the chemicals and resins that they're bonded with, many of which are actually carcinogenic, and they're known to be carcinogenic, they go into the soil, and these chemicals, I can only imagine as a layman, are actually liberated into the soil, and then they get into the watercourse. And I think this is just supposition on my part. Where does it go from there? So we've been selling good quality furniture for as long as I can remember, or I've been selling good quality furniture. And trends, you know, it's a bit of a wave, and there's quite a lot been bandied about, and it's done no end of damage over the last few years about brown furniture and the mantra of brown furniture. I even speak to clients now, and they actually parrot brown furniture. Oh, brown furniture is not popular now. Well, it isn't, but it still stands as being excellent quality, excellent value, because, you know, it's made from seasoned timber, usually quite good cuts. I'm not here to say that all antique furniture was of the highest quality. It wasn't, because, you know, we make rubbish today, they made rubbish then. The Victorians certainly did. So, you know, I'm not here to say that, but it's with the green credentials of, let's, for instance, say antique furniture are excellent. There are no, a tree hasn't been cut down within the last 100 years to make it. That tree has now been replaced. The longevity of the piece of furniture is outstanding, with some running repairs, which are to be expected, but at least you can repair it. So I am a great advocate of buying, well, most things second hand. Obviously, I do draw the line, underwear and all the rest of it. No, but it makes perfect sense in these days when we need to recycle and reuse. I was looking at a website last night, and the link will be on our website accompanying this podcast, and it is absolutely terrifying. Being the father of a 14-year-old, and just thinking of what the world will become, this website was a clarion call, really, to slam on the brakes of what's going on. Everyone has to earn a living, but when you saw the numbers, and they have a live feed, and you can break it down from how many, it's in US dollars, American website obviously, how many tons of furniture made, how many dollars spent, and you can break it down from this year, this month, this week, this day. And when you see, and it also gives account of how many hectares of forest that have been cut down and burnt back. And a lot of these trees that are grown, softwoods predominantly, just for particulate board, that they grow so rapidly that they actually expunge all of the minerals from the soil. And so it's grown so rapidly, it becomes a problem. It's an ecological disaster. And then you have all the allied trades, so the production of fabric for upholstery. You have the production of the springs, the steel that goes into them. Now, when you look at it as I did, and you think, well, it's a few bits of furniture. I've walked around, name drop, IKEA. You think, well, it's not a problem. But think, how many branches of that particular shop in the world, how many branches are, and I'm not denigrating IKEA at all, I'm not, but you break it down, how many retailers of modern furniture, some of them being responsible, some of them selling furniture which is responsibly sourced, made from ethically grown timbers which are sustainable. Yes, there are, but there are many which aren't, which are made from particulate board. They're produced for the mass market, and everyone needs a chair to sit upon. But it's time we started to think about this, because we won't reap the whirlwind from this. Further generations will. And it sounds like I'm giving the hard sell for antique furniture. I'm not. I'm just pointing out the fact that I was quite shocked when it actually came to seeing it and seeing a running counter. And this thing was running like a sort of you see the representation of a sort of a time bombs on TV, and the counter is spinning unfeasibly fast. Well, that's what it looked like. It was terrifying. Not for myself. I'm at the age where I'm not worried. For me, it's the future generations. So that's why it's more and more prevalent now that we reuse and make the most of the resources that we have. All sorts of things can be recycled. I see, to use an old term, crockery. It's never been more affordable to buy second hand. And if you shop about, you can buy these things, and it's usually better quality. Not always, but it's usually better quality, and it just makes perfect sense. Because if we keep taking and taking and taking, soon we won't have the option. Furniture it's risen slightly, but good middle of the road. Brown furniture, you see, I'm even perpetuating that now. Good quality, middle of the road, brown furniture is as affordable as ever. I hear dealers say that they wish they could buy the furniture. They could have bought the furniture in the 80s at the current prices. Well, of course they would. For instance, a bog standard George III mahogany bureau. Now, the mahogany bureaus, unless they're particularly early or particularly unusual or constructed from a particularly unusual timber or veneered in particularly unusual timber, they've probably suffered the worst depletion, along with Pembroke tables, Sutherland tables, Davenport desks. But these things are actually as low as they're ever going to be. For a properly cabinet made, properly finished piece of furniture, you can't really go wrong. My house, you'd think it'd be full of antiques. Not really. My house is full of antiques, but usually things which are broken, it's a bit like a busman's holiday. You don't really sort of fill your house with fine things. You sort of grab what you can. Not from this auction, I hasten to add. That would be wrong. But it is important, and so much has been spoken about the green credentials. But we've been in recycling for years and years and years and years. I mean, the fact is that, I mean, the auction business, I think the first recorded, ethically, slightly on dodgy ground here, but the first recorded auction was in Babylonia in 500 BC, which, dare I say, it was actually the sale of some women on the understanding of marriage. So I think we've come quite a distance since then. But you have different formats. You can have what's termed a Dutch auction, and a Dutch auction originally was developed, and it runs backwards. So you start at a high price. It was started for fruit, vegetables, and also tulip bulbs, which, a little snippet of information, actually aren't native of Holland. Originally, the tulip originated in Turkey, but there was a vast trade. People were murdered. Thousands of pounds or thousands of whatever currency were paid for tulip bulbs, and they found a quite unique way of selling them, and they used to do a Dutch auction, which is colloquial term, a Dutch auction. So they would start off for the object, and they'd start off at, let's say, £1,000, no bids, £800, no bids, and they'd come down in metered increments. And the first person to lose their nerve and bid was the winner. So it came down rather than going up. So it was descending rather than ascending. But it was, of course, a battle of wits, because you never knew when your opponents, your fellow bidders in the room were actually going to bid. There's lots of archaic methods. A firm I used to work for, which was quite an old firm, they were founded in the 1770s, and they conducted an archaic practice which you will find very little about now. They didn't do it in my days, so I'm not quite that old, but in the 1770s, Randall Walker, who was the founder of the company, they used to do what they call bidding to the candle, which is unknown. So you take a candle, and just at the soft wax area, just where the wax is melting, a pin is placed. And the people bid until the pin falls out, and then the person with the last bid is actually the winner. It's called bidding to the candle, and it's defunct now. In the other types of auctions that we conduct nowadays, there are two types of auction. The ones which are more commonly used for the auction world, especially of fine arts, is whereby a reserve may or may not be in place. But that precludes the vendor from bidding on their items to influence the outcome of the lot. Then you have another one which is usually used for agricultural sales. I could be wrong, but I think it's usually agricultural, and that is where it has to be announced that a reserve will not be in place. However, the vendor may be bidding on their item in order to increase the price raised. So there's all sorts of different things. I'll be touching on this in a further podcast. So thank you very much. Goodbye.